Hello everyone, here we are for part 2 of our GTV6 wiring extravaganza. If you're not bored by the last video, I don't blame you. This is not really that entertaining stuff, but it's stuff nonetheless, and people demand the content. Let's give you the content. So last time, the last video here, I had everything pulled apart. I had a big pile of junk here and a whole bunch of crap that I've taken out of the harness. We have now finished the harness, and I'm going to get ready to throw it back on the car and terminate the ends of everything and get that all ready for, basically, finalizing and cleaning up everything. So we have all of the wiring with the brand new wire. I went and bought some spools of correctly colored 14 gauge wiring. And so here we are on the passenger side connector. Everything's all taped up the way it originally was, just with nicer, heavier gauge wire. I have new grounds for the headlights at the grounding location, and then the actual headlight wiring up towards the headlights are. You can see this light blue colored wire here. They're extra long, and because I've actually decided to include the accessory lights that are on the front of the car that I've added on, I've decided to include those because they're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So I've included those into the harness, and we'll stick the relay right next to the other relays up the front. So for a nice clean install. Actually, that wasn't perfectly good there, was it? Might have to... I always like to have my tape really nicely done so that water can't get in, but it's actually a bit of a struggle, especially when it's cold. So we have the bit of the harness that goes up above the radiator. And now we have actually cleaned up everything up front here. It doesn't look that clean, but it actually is. We have the headlight harness that goes up to the driver's side of the headlight, and you can see the fog lights there as well. Nice heavy 14 gauge powers and grounds. And then we see back into the engine bay. I've cleaned up everything. Let's just organize this a bit. So this is the stuff that goes into the engine bay. I've now organized and cleaned it all. The grounding, all the grounds have been pulled off to that one location where they all originally went. Then we have all of the feeders that go to the temperature senders and stuff like that, and the radiator switch. That's all been broken out of this harness here. You can see that's the hood light. So yeah, you can see everything's kind of done. The originally by factory, this stuff was kind of open, like it was never taped up fully factory anyway. But I've actually taped a little further than they originally did, just to keep things clean. Taped everything together so that everything stays nice and clean and organized. The ignition system is the only thing that I've left out. So this is the whole ignition system for the car, is in my hand right here. So that I'm going to leave temporarily hooked up so I can drive the car if needed until I get the Milano's harness apart to figure out how that ignition system needs to be wired in. Up front where the relays are, you can see that I've separated the alternator leads that go to the fuse box with the actual headlight, fog light harness, which is all here. Because I've integrated the fog light harness into here, that way I don't have to have a stupid wire that goes all the way from the switch inside. There's obviously a switch in here that gets pushed through here. And then I'd have normally a wire just, half-assedly coming up front here to trigger the relay. So what I've actually decided to do is, since none of these old headlight, there would be, I guess, one, two, three. So there'd be 6 wires going to these headlights from that column switch in there. And since I don't need them anymore because I'm using relays, I only need really one trigger for the high and one trigger for the low, and then one other trigger to switch the low beam off. Anyway, it's complicated, but nevertheless. So what I've decided to actually do is I've got the fuse box out of the car, and if you flip that over, you can see that there are the green wires that go up front to the headlights, the old ones. So obviously, I only need one of these to trigger the high beams to turn on. All the rest of these are actually just garbage. So I'm going to pull one of these green wires out of here and just attach it to the switch on the dash over there. So obviously that way I'll run a little wire nice and neatly behind here, and it'll just connect into here, into the old wire that I pull out of this plastic connector. So that way I have a clean install of fog lights. using the original wire that would just normally be sitting there doing nothing anyway. So it's actually this wire here. I've marked it with a piece of heat shrink. So that's going to be pulled out of that plastic connector for the fog light trigger. So yeah, once I'm done all that, I'm going to have a look at doing some other work. I'm going to do some other relaying off of the key switch and stuff like that. Many people have done that probably already, where all the current from the car runs through the ignition key. I've already averted that by adding this directly to a 50 amp relay. So I'm going to clean that up as well, make that all nice. And then I'm going to add my Milano ignition system, which I've begun having a look at. So we have a full Milano wiring harness sitting here, hanging off my engine stand. And this is actually the digital ignition system. So I'm going to have a look at the wiring diagram for that and see how easy it would be. I'm guessing fairly easy to integrate that into this GTV6. Anyway, bye for now.